Now we have a matching bracelet and ring made exactly the same way. We're going to make a simple forged bangle to match our simple forged ring. If you have a Bangle Sizer, get your size, measure the inside diameter, and multiply by 3.14. That'll give you the length. Now we're using 2.5 round wire, 2.5 millimeter in diameter for this one. And what we want to do is cut this 15 millimeters shorter than the size that we come up with. Now if you were making a bangle without forging it, you'd want it to be the exact size. And if you don't have a Bangle Sizer, you can just take a piece of string or paper and distort your hand so that it looks about like this, and wrap the string or the paper around the biggest part. That will be the length that you need to cut the wire. So take that length minus 15 mil. File the ends perfectly flat, form it around so that there's tension holding the ends together, and solder it using hard solder. When you order your metal, if you order it dead soft or half hard, you'll actually be able to form it with your fingers. Given a choice, always order it with something less than hard, because unless you're going to make jewelry that you don't need to solder, it's kind of pointless ordering it hard, because as soon as you solder it, it's going to be annealed. So half hard or dead soft, and then we just form this so that the ends hold themselves together, perfectly lined up. Do your work getting this perfectly lined up, and then you have almost no work to tidy up your solder join. I place my piece flat on a charcoal block, flux the join, and I take 2 or 3 pieces of hard solder, 1.5 mil long. And you can see that I'm pointing away from this side of the bangle. I'm just putting the flame on the join. I'll heat the solder pick up my bits of solder, heat the join, brushing the flame back and forth until the flux goes clear. And you can see I'm just holding my solder pick with the solder above it. As soon as the flux goes clear, I know that the metal is at the temperature for the solder to flow. So I'll just lower my pick, and the solder should flow fairly quickly. I'm bouncing the flame off the charcoal block. It flowed. Now I go to the other side just to make sure it flowed all the way through. Done. Quench, pickle, and then we tidy up this after we round it up. So we're out of the pickle. Rinse it, dry it off, always dry it off. And now we're going to round it up on our Bracelet Mandrel. And I'll zoom this out. A lot of the things that I show you how to do, I assume you have a Bracelet Mandrel. It's pretty indispensable. It's only about $40 through either Rio Grande or Auto Fray if you're in the US. For the rest of us, shipping from the US is pretty horrendous. So check with your local jewelry supply. If it's around $50, just buy it locally. Same thing with your ring mandrel. If you're in the rest of the world, don't buy a ring mandrel with the markings from Rio because it has US markings on it, which is pretty worthless to us and the rest of the world. If you're in France, buy one locally. England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, all have different markings than the US. So they're not that expensive, and if you continue making jewelry, it's well worth buying one with the proper markings on it. You can buy them with no markings at all. It's just that if you're lazy like me, it's quite easy to work the stuff until it gets to the proper size. I round this up using a rawhide hammer. Now we have a nice round bangle. If it's off sideways, just put it on your bench, a wooden block, and you can just tap the sides until they come down. We want it nice and flat. .400 grade paper on a sanding stick. Follow the curve of the wire. And if you had a good join, and if your soldering was correct, you end up with something that's quite easy to tidy up. So I do the outside, then I use a round sanding stick to do the inside, and then we'll forge it. Once again, we're using a planishing hammer, flat side, highly polished. You can just buy a cheap ball peen hammer, use your sanding stick, sand this back, your flat sanding stick, sand this back until there are no imperfections on it, and polish it up. Normally you polish steel with Cabramax, but you could use your Tripoli. And it'll cost you a lot more work to make this pretty, but it works just the same as your expensive planishing hammer. Now, I'm marking where I want to end up with my bangle, and as we hammer this, it's going to get larger and larger. So either mark your mandrel or keep trying it on for size if it's for you. Now, we're just going to get this so you can see. We're going to just hammer a nice flat, then we're going to shift it and hammer another one next to it. So we come to a little point right in between them, and do that all the way around. Yeah. Now, only while you're doing it, keep your eye on this because you don't want to go past that point. So now I've gone all the way around, and my flats or my facets are all pretty much the same size, even to the point where I got to the end. If when you get to the end it's a little bit wide or a little bit long, it really doesn't matter. And you can see I'm not quite to my mark yet, so I'll go around again after I flip this over. And it's just so that we don't end up with a taper in this, so it's bigger on one side than the other. Okay, I'm at my mark, and when I was hammering these, I was just hammering straight on one spot. And you'll notice that even though we started with round wire, our inside is now flat, and we have this pretty diamond shaped. bits all the way around. And all we have to do now is hallmark it and polish it. Done. Now we have a matching bracelet and ring made exactly the same way.